Welcome to Greg's Real Revival. Today we're going to service a oldie but a goodie. This is a Shimano Calcutta 100. This reel is from anywhere from about 1994 to the early 2000s. Great round bait casting reel. So we're just going to take it apart and get it cleaned up and go from there. First thing we'll do is take off the handle. And then when we do, we'll lay out the parts here in the order we took them off so we'll know how to get them back together. If y'all are watching and you like these kind of things, please like and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell so that you'll know when I post new videos. I've got a couple of videos coming up pretty quickly. I've got this, and then I've got an older Shimano, I think it's a Chronarch MG. So we'll look at that and take that apart and get that serviced as well. But we're going to tackle this one first. These came in from my buddy Sean, who I work with, and he's a big bass fisherman, hadn't used these in a while, and he wants to get them cleaned up. There was a complaint, well, it's kind of his concern that this one doesn't cast super far, so we'll look at the bearings, see what they look like. And if he wants to, we'll upgrade to some ceramic bearings. So we're just going to take this handle off. There. There's your little shim washer. Spin off our anti-reverse. Nothing over there, I don't think. Yes, there is. There's a little washer under here. Take that off and that off. We've got a little bit of grease inside them, so we'll get those cleaned up and re-greased. Here's our tension washers. Let's go ahead and take both of those out. Those are kind of curved, and we'll show you what to do with those when we put this back together. Let's see if I can get that up there. All right, that is probably a spacer or maybe the anti-reverse. So once we get all this out, we'll get that taken care of. Okay, so we got all this side of the reel done, almost. Right here, this is the spool tensioner bearing, so we'll take that out real quick. There's a little hexagonal tension spring in there, so just put your finger on it, because if it gets out of here and it gets away from you, it'll fly across the room and they're not easy to find. All right, so we'll just put one finger down here, get this pick between that little clip and the side. Get that pulled out here in just a second. There we go. All right, so we'll just lay that. There's that little clip. And then we'll just tap that. See if I can get that bearing to come out. All right, not right now, but we're fixing to take the spool out, so I'll be able to get that out here in just a second. All right, so we'll just undo these thumb screws here. Lift the side plate off. Okay. All right, so there is the inside of the side plate. All your gears and everything are in here. So we're going to deal with those here in a second. Let me see if maybe I can take this bearing tool and push that bearing out. It doesn't look like it all the way, so I'll take my little pick here. All right. Last thing, I've got a little bearing puller here. Okay, so I can go through here, just get on the underneath side of that. We'll get that pulled out of there. All right, took a little bit for us to get underneath it. I should just be able to pull that out right now. All right, there we go. There's that bearing. I'm gonna set that down there. And then for right now, we're gonna leave this alone. Okay, we're just gonna set that to the side. Next thing, let's look at this spool. You'll see, and I think this might be one of the problems. Instead of a bearing, that spool shaft has got a plastic bushing on there. There's really nothing to service with a plastic bushing. We could take that pin out and remove that bushing, but like I said, it's a plastic bushing. There's no ball bearing, no balls, no nothing in there to work with. So we're gonna leave that alone, and we'll just clean that spool up and clean that shaft up and go from there. And there's your anti-reverse on the other side. All right. Next thing we're going to do, I'm not going to do this on the screen, but I'm going to service this line guide. So to do that, you've got to remove, there's 2 screws in there. I think you can probably see them. This hole here is because there's not a lot of room to get to that other one. So we'll get these 2 screws out, and then this side plate will come off. Find my little small screwdriver I had. There it is. All right, see what we can get here. There's one of them. Top one may be a little more difficult. We're just going to be careful with it because obviously we don't want to. There we go. Just had to use a little different screwdriver there. See, the top screw is much smaller than the bottom screw, and that's all right. All right, so should be able to push that side plate off. You look, there's really nothing over here. We'll clean all that up just a little bit, just to make sure. But the reason we took this off is to service this line guide here. We're going to have to get in here and access all this. So I'm going to set that aside. Now for what I call the business side of the reel. Like I said, all the gears are in here. So we're going to take these 2 little screws off here. This plate will separate, and then we can get to all the gearing inside. There's one of them. Here's our other one. Came out really nicely. There we go. Here's our other one. Okay, if this is stuck at all, we can just hold it in our hand like this, and be sure you have pressure underneath it. And we're just going to push down that shaft. You can see that one's just going to come right out there. All right, so there's the inside of that. That is your anti-reverse bearing. I'll show you how to take care of that. And then here is our business side of the reel. All right, so we've got, first thing we're going to do, we're going to take off our 2 pinion springs right here. These tend to shoot across the room if you're not careful, so we want to get those off there ASAP. Set that right there, that one right there. Next thing we're going to do is we're just going to pull straight. Okay, let's take this collar right here rides inside that anti-reverse bearing. Okay, so we're going to just take that out and we'll clean that up and get that put back in there. And then, like I said, right now, let's just take off this main bearing. We're just going to kind of grab it and should be able to pull it straight up. Now, I will say, with some of these older reels, since they may not have been taken apart or serviced for a while, sometimes they're a little more difficult, but we'll get it. Let's see if we can get this pinion gear out. Okay, we'll take this pinion gear and the yoke off first. Just set that down. And you'll notice those two mesh together with the main gear. Now maybe that'll give us a little more, there we go, a little more ability to get this thing out. Yeah, it's coming. Alright, so this is going to be a little difficult for us, and that's okay. What we'll do is okay, there it goes, it just fell off, that's perfect. Okay, so you'll see, there's what that looks like without that main gear on there. Underneath the main gear is, the first thing is the ratchet gear. You'll see these points are going to face to the right when we're putting this back together, so we need to remember that. Then there's this spacer, and then we have the main gear. Let's take that apart real quick. So there's not another washer on the back side. Sometimes there are, so we're going to take this top plate off here. There's nothing underneath it. And then we've got looks like some kind of a fiber drag washer. And then we have that inside of the main gear. All right, so while we've got this apart, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this C-clip off, and then we'll be able to take this entire shaft out, and then we can clean it up really good, make sure everything underneath it's clean. So to do that, we're just going to put, let's see how we're going to do this here. See if I can move. I'll move that to where I can get to it. I think this is my thinner screwdriver, so I'm gonna put that in that little slot, and then you can see that came right off there. So we'll put this down. Let's see. Okay. Obviously fell out pretty easy. That's all right. I thought there might be a washer under here. It does not appear that there is. All right. They're real bad about kind of placing little washers everywhere with these. So if you're taking them apart, just kind of pay attention. Okay, so look, there is a little washer right here. So make sure we take care of that. And that's all you got. There's your main gear. So, with the exception of the, oh look, there's a, all right, that's interesting. Like I said, these little washers they're not really difficult, but it's one of those things where they kind of put them everywhere, and they're just to tighten up the tolerances a little bit. Let's see if that comes out. It does not. Yeah, it does. I lied to you. All right, so that's going to go in on top. It does have a little rim on it, you'll see, so there will only be one way that can go in, and then that little brass washer is going to go on top of it. Okay? Okay, so there is our reel. I am going to get this cleaned up, and then we will come back and we'll get it put back together. See y'all in a bit. All right, welcome back. We have got everything cleaned up. I did service the line guide here. You can see when there's the gear for the line guide. Works just fine there. So now what we're going to do, we're going to put together the rest of the reel. First thing we're going to do, we're going to put this main shaft back on the back on the reel. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to take this gear right here, fit that on there. Take this brass washer, put that on there. That goes in that hole right there and meshes with that plastic drive gear. Okay, turn that over. We have another small brass washer that goes on the back of here, right there. And the last thing we need to do to get this rolling is put this little C-clip on there. All right. Set that right there. The pliers over here. Up. And here in a second, we're just going to clip that right back on there. Get started right there. Maybe I could just hold that with these pliers. So as with a lot of reel servicing, these things are not difficult to do. Just sometimes it takes a little bit to get the small pieces just in the right space to where you need them to get everything put back together the way it needs to be. All right, tentatively that looks really good. Let's see if we can actually get this put back on here. There it is. All right. So that is our main shaft. We're good to go. All righty. Next thing I think we're going to do is we're going to put on our pinion gear. Here's our pinion yoke springs. We're not going to mess with those right yet. All right, so here's our pinion gear. This side right here faces up so it can mesh with the rest of the gears. Here is what we call our pinion yoke. There's some kind of angled sides here. They're hard to see, but like that's angled right there, and this is angled the opposite way. The angles need to go down. Okay, that's going to help you when you push the button to cast. It's going to lift that gear up so you can cast free, and then when you engage the gear, that's going to go back down. All right, so that side goes down. Before we do that, let's get us a little bit of grease laid out right there. A little bit of grease, and we're just going to put that grease right on there. Okay, so with your grease, don't get overly emotional about putting a whole lot on there, because when we put this main gear on there, it's going to mesh with this pinion gear and it's all going to share grease. Okay, all right, so we got that on there. That's going to go on these two little posts right here. All right, so we're good to go right there. Next thing, we have our main gear. A lot of different parts to this, nothing real difficult. If you'll remember, here's our click ratchet. These points face to the right. So this is the first thing that goes down here. Okay. Next thing that goes down is this little spacer. All right, next thing that's going to go down is going to be our main gear. Let's put a little bit of grease in these teeth right here. As I mentioned, let's not get overly aggressive about it, just because it shares grease with some of the rest of the reel. What happens if you get too much is you just sling a whole lot of extra grease inside your reel and it doesn't really do anything. It just makes your reel messy. Okay, so we're going to put this on here. Take it down slow and let it mesh with that pinion gear. Then we're going to put this drag washer in here. Drag washer, I think it is just like kind of a nylon material, but just in case it's not, we're going to put a little bit of Cal's drag reel grease on it. Okay. And you don't need a lot of this. We're going to see I dip just a little bit in there, and I'm just going to kind of work this around here. Okay. It's not a whole lot. We just want to keep it moist, and we don't want to have it real goopy. Okay. All right, so we're done there. We're going to set that inside there. And then we're going to put this cap on here. It can only go one way. So there we are on that. Okay, next thing we have, here's our little shaft. This goes inside this anti-reverse bearing. May just put a tiny bit of grease on the outside here, nothing major. Okay. And then you'll see this has two little prongs right here. Those are going to fit down into that little space there and that little space there. Okay. All right. So we're good to go there. Next thing we're going to do is before we do anything, we're going to get our pinion yoke springs. Oh, I just lost one of them. Give me just a second. It's going to take me a second to find it. All right, we're back. Didn't fly far, but they're pretty difficult to find when they do. Okay, so we're going to put these pinion yoke springs right on here. There's one. There's your other one. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this case here and we're going to set it right over the top of here. Then we're going to put these two small screws in that hold this case to this. All right. Sometimes with these little tiny screws, if you'll get just a tiny bit of grease on there, it'll help hold them. And you can get those in there. Right there. All right. Okay, so get this out of the way. Get this out of the way. Now, for this, on these round reels, especially these Calcuttas, okay, the thumb bar here is pressed down. And we're going to want to, and look closely here, you'll see this little metal piece here. We're going to take this and we're going to move it to the right there. Okay, so that's going to help us when we put this back together. Okay, so next thing we're going to do before we do that is we're going to take the spool. We're going to put just a small drop of oil right there. That goes right down there into that bearing. And then we're going to put just a tiny bit of oil, a drop or two, real light oil on that shaft. Okay. Then we're going to put that shaft right in there. We're going to line this up. All right. So you'll see that case is holding good together there. Then we're just going to spin these thumb screws tight, so we're good there. And now we're going to get back to the other part of this reel. Okay. Find that one here. There it is. Okay. These here are your tension washers. If you look at them, they're kind of curved there. They kind of bow one way or the other. What we want to do is we want to make these kind of for the one that you put on the bottom. We want the curve to go down. All right, so we just put that there. And then on this one, we want the curve to go up. Why do we do that? Okay, when we start cranking, your drag star is going to go on top of this. When we start cranking down that drag star, that's going to push those. It's going to give tension, so we'll have some really good drag tension here if we need it. Okay, next thing after those is just this flat washer. All right, we're good there. Next thing is our drag washer. Okay. You can, and I didn't this time, but if you want, you can put that washer down inside of there. It's going to end up in the same place. So just whatever you're most comfortable with. All right. Now that is not on there correctly. You'll know if it's on there correctly because it's going to spin on real easily, just like that one did. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put on this tension washer. Maybe. All right. Put that tension washer on there. Then we're going to put our handle on here. All right. Now we're going to get our nut. Get that put on. Now, when you're trying to line this up, this cap here, generally if one of these points is pointing directly at that hole, or if one of these flat sides is perfectly perpendicular to it, you can get that cap on real nicely, okay? So I think what we'll do here, see if we can get this one perpendicular to it. And then let's see. All right, you can see that works perfectly. So one more time, that right there is perpendicular to that hole. You put that cap on and hopefully you can see that it lines up so it's ready to be put back on. One more time, a little bit of grease. And then we'll put that in there. All right. Snug that up a little bit. Make sure we're not too tight here. Oh, that drag's probably too tight, so we're gonna back that off a little bit. Gosh, even a little bit more. All right, that's about right. And then this is our spool tension. That looks good. So basically look at this, spin it. It spins real nice. It's really, really smooth. Okay. When you hit this spool release, spins really, really nicely. Okay, now, those bearings were a little bit dirty. I don't think we talked about it, but what I do with bearings is when I take them out, I will soak them in either some acetone or some Coleman fuel, like some lantern fuel or cook stove fuel, outside for about 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then I'll put like one little tiny small drop of oil on there. And that will get those going. You don't want to over oil them. You don't want to oil them with a really heavy oil because it'll slow everything down. But that's what we've done with those. Then we put those back in. And I think that's it. As you can see, reel's working great. Anti-reverse is great. Like I said, we've got the drag set a little bit more, perfect. And then when you push that down, it clicks nicely. So there you have it. It is the Shimano Calcutta 100. If you are interested in getting your reel serviced, shoot me an email at gregsreelrevival@gmail.com. If you have any questions about this reel or any other ones, just put them in the comments. Please hit like, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell so when I do post videos, you'll have those available to you and you can see what I'm doing. If you have any ideas on what you might want to see next, just let me know. So thank y'all for tuning in, and we appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.